Why did the New Orleans Saints miss the playoffs? This is the Mina show featuring Lenny. That's not Lenny on the right. That is Benjamin Solak. Lenny is a dog. Lenny is a puppy. He is not in the frame. All right, so in this video, Mina goes through every single team that did not make the playoffs and tells me why that team missed the playoffs. Now, the Saints did miss the playoffs. Thus, they are on the list. Thus, we will hear what Mina has to say about why the Saints missed the playoffs. So let's go ahead and listen, and we will react like only I can do.
The Saints. I'm up for the Saints. I just wrote the defense got old and you didn't have enough young players.
Okay. Now, okay, I'll let her go for a little bit longer.
Rise up, which is... I mean, obviously the quarterback position, Derek Carr is hurt. You're rolling out Spencer Rattler. There's issues with the offensive line, all of that. But like this defense, week after week, it's not just that they're old. Like they look old, just they look slow. They're missing tackles. They're not getting enough pass rush. It was all very predictable. But
let me save it. Let me succinctly put all that together. The defense was absolutely ass. They were horrible. They were terrible. Now, is that because they're getting old? Maybe, whatever, but they're bad. The defense was, for the most part, probably the worst defense in the NFL in totality. At times, it was whatever, but if you look at the entire season, you look at the run defense, you take away Marshawn Lattimore, more than likely, you could say this is the worst defense in the NFL, which is crazy because of the talent that we have on the field. I mean, on the defense didn't suffer the injuries that the offense did. The defense was hurt at times, but for the most part, it was relatively healthy. And for Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, all the players that Carl Granderson, just everyone that's there, you would think the floor for this defense is certainly not the worst defense in the NFL, which it absolutely was. But I'm surprised. I'm not surprised because if you're not like super tuned into the Saints, you might not realize it. But I'm surprised more people aren't just saying like, look, this team was absolutely gutted by injuries to the extent that we really haven't seen an NFL team. And when you look at it, you could argue, not even argue, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80% of our starters were hurt at times, some for an extended period of time. I just did a video where we were reacting to a comment where or was a tweet where the tweet said, your center being injured and Taysom Hill being injured shouldn't tank your season. And it's like, my man, you are leaving out like our starting quarterback. You are leaving out our best player in Alvin Kamara. You are leaving out our number one wide receiver in Chris Olave. You are leaving out our number two wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed. I understand Rashid Shaheed is not, Devontae Adams, but these are hugely important players, all injured at the same time. Like you're talking about like Spencer Rattler during his first couple of games. He didn't have any of his receivers. We didn't even have MVS at that point. And MVS, we didn't even have him. At that point, Spencer Rattler's number one and number two receivers were Mason Tipton and Bub Means. Okay? That's his 1 and 2. His center was Connor McGovern, who isn't on the team anymore. He wasn't on the team to start the season, and he isn't on the team now. All right? Think about the Saints season. Our best wide receiver right now is who? MVS. Our best running back right now is who? Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Our starting center at one point was Connor McGovern. Those are three people, two of which are right now, three people who weren't on the team to start the season. That's how much the injuries impacted this team. If you do not know who, Shane Lemieux and Lucas Patrick and players like that are, then you might not understand the severity of the injuries. But there is not a team in the NFL who could have taken the injuries that the Saints did and turned that into a playoff team. I don't care. We did a video on this last week. There is not a team on earth that is deep enough to go out there with your third string rookie quarterback, a free agent running back backed up by another free agent running back, a free agent wide receiver backed up by multiple practice squad level receivers, some undrafted, whilst having 3 offensive linemen who one was practice squad, other are 4th and 5th string. There's not a team on earth that could have managed through that. One of those injuries, sure. 2 of those injuries, sure. But all at the same time, insane. So I'm not saying the Saints would have been a Super Bowl team if the injuries never happened, but they damn sure aren't a 5-win team, and they're probably closer to a 9-ish win team, 10-ish win team, somewhere in that neighborhood. They're probably pretty similar to the Falcons as far as just how good the roster is, how good the team is. Somewhere in that neighborhood, they probably would not have won the South because the Bucs were really good, and the Bucs and Baker Mayfield took a step forward, but the Saints, that is the answer. The answer to why they missed the playoffs, the answer to why the season has been this bad, is because of the injuries. Mixed with, you can't let the defense off the hook, mixed with how bad the defense has been. The defense took a tremendous step back, a step back that you rarely see, to go from arguably top 10 to absolute rock bottom 32nd. But those 2 things were the big 2 factors. And that's not even factoring in Dennis Allen. That's not even factoring in firing your coach and all that mid-season. But those 2 things is why the Saints missed the playoffs.
But I think what's so disappointing is the young rushers you've drafted in early rounds just haven't panned out. I actually liked Brian Bresee the year before, but he really took a step back this year, not getting anything out of Turner, Foskey. They made bad decisions too, with the guys they've let walk.
So Bresee is weird because Bresee is, Bresee, he's in a weird situation because all he is a pass rusher. And I think he's another guy who this has probably been his best year as far as, obviously it's been his best year as far as impact and production and all that, but it's only in the pass rush. And he has been bottom of the barrel, one of the worst interior defensive linemen against the run. That's it. That is absolutely a problem. And the fact that we can't stop the run, huge problem. No doubt about that. But, we got a bunch of guys on the defensive line who do one thing. That's try and pressure the quarterback. And if they're not getting sacks, then they're not doing much else. And they certainly aren't stopping the run.
Caden Ellis, Zach Bond. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think Zach Bond is a product of Vic Fangio, by the way. I think, Zach Bond was in a weird situation with the Saints where he was behind a bunch of linebackers that pretty damn good. He went and got into a good situation in Philadelphia with a hell of a defensive coordinator, and he's having a career year. So it's not all Vic Fangio, but it's not Vic Fangio.
This is one where we talked about Trent Baalke, Mickey Loomis, dude. No, they have to move on.
He's immortal.
But they won't.
Yeah,
he's immortal. But
the whole thing that
what I
he
just
basically
said,
owns
even
the team.
I know, but what I just said, the first round picks from previous years, and then the guys they've let walk. He's made so many. Forget the weird ways they manage the cap and all the kicking they can. Just look at the players, right? He has chosen poorly.
Mm-hmm. Their last few years, man. The 2023 draft is Brian Bresee into Isaiah Foskey into Kendra Miller, who Dennis Allen kind of hated Kendra Miller for some reason, but still,
that was a great bit, yeah.
This past year was Talise Fuaga and Nicolid McKinstry, and then obviously they had no picks, right? Whatever.
I think better.
The Chris Olave 2022 first overall pick is great, but behind it is Trevor Penning and Alontae Taylor. Before that, Payton Turner, Pete Werner was good. Paulson Adebo, it's not an overwhelming list of success at draft capital, but
all right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do this again. I know y'all do not like this, but we're going to talk Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis, let me explain this, okay? Mickey Loomis can absolutely take criticism. Mickey Loomis is not the greatest GM in the NFL. Mickey Loomis, there have been problems with the cap. There have been problems with some draft picks. There have been problems with, some players who have walked and become good elsewhere. Totally get it. I'm not saying that Mickey Loomis is perfect. I'm not saying that Mickey Loomis is infallible or he doesn't deserve criticism. But to look at what has happened this year and what has happened over the last 20 years, Mickey Loomis took over in 2002. To look at that in totality, use that word twice now, bonus points. To look at all of that and then say, I think Mickey Loomis should be fired, I honestly think is crazy. Mickey Loomis should be on the hot seat. Mickey Loomis should be just like John Lynch, okay, in San Francisco. I think it's totally fine to look at John Lynch in San Francisco and say, hey, brother, you paid Brandon Ayuk. We had one of the worst trades, draft pick situations of all time in Trey Lance. Like, all this is happening. So, and we're 6-8 or we're 6-9, whatever we are right now. Hugely disappointing. I think John Lynch should absolutely have to answer some questions and receive some criticism. I'm there. No doubt about it, okay? Do I think the 49ers would be absolutely insane to fire John Lynch? Yes, absolutely. 100%. What's going on with the Saints right now is not fun. What's going on with the Saints right now is not an enjoyable season, okay? But to look at what Mickey Loomis has done over the past 20-plus years, recently too, this is not like all of this happened 15 years ago. To look at what he's done recently, to look at what he's done over the last 25 years, 23 years, to see the injuries and the devastation that we had this season, and to place all of that blame on Loomis to the point to where you want to fire him, I think is insane. I really do. I mean, like, I've seen some comments that are like, look at our wide receivers. Mickey Loomis put out the worst wide receivers in the NFL. It's like, bro, my man, these aren't our wide receivers. This isn't what, like, these are guys that aren't supposed to be playing. This was not the plan. You know, like, it's not the plan to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire be the guy. It's not the plan to have Connor McGovern and Udo and whoever else starting on the offensive line. It's not the plan to have Spencer Rattler starting a majority of the games. Okay? This was not part of the plan. It was not the plan to trade Marshawn Lattimore and have Paulson Adebo get hurt and move Alontae Taylor. And, like, that's not part of this. All right? It sucks, but this was not Mickey Loomis's design. All right? It was not him going into the season like, all right, we're going to roll into the season with MVS. We're going to roll into the season with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we're rocking and rolling, baby. Not the plan. Now, let's take a look at some numbers here. All right? I showed this in a video last week, but I'm going to show some new stuff today. This is Mickey Loomis's career as a general manager / VP / whatever. 208 and 163 in his career. Well above 500. All right? Before this season, he had not lost more than 7 games besides 2005. So one time, the Hurricane Katrina year. I mean, what are you going to do? He had not lost, or he had lost less than 7 games once in his entire career. Now, let's look at some GMs like Hoe Roseman. Hoe Roseman is arguably the best GM in the NFL. He's one of them. Him and DeCosta from the Ravens. Probably top 2 GMs in the NFL. Roseman has been doing this a lot less than Loomis, okay? 15 years compared to 23. Loomis has a better record. You look at Roseman, he's had some really down years, okay? 4 wins twice, pretty recently, 2020. Now, things have been cool recently, right? All right, 14 wins, 11 wins, even though you could argue last year was kind of a disaster for Philly. 14, 11, 13, okay? So it's good right now for Philly, no doubt about it. Tampa Bay, Jason Licht. 11 years, 10 games under 500. He won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Right now, the Bucs are kind of cool, but 8-9, 9-8, 9-7. Okay, you have 13-4, 11-5 again with Tom Brady. Before that, 2 wins, 6 wins, 5 wins, 5 wins. Why I'm showing you this is it takes, like, sometimes teams have down years, and sometimes things happen, whether it's a draft pick didn't work out, or a coach didn't work out, or injuries happened, and you get these years. You get these back-to-back 5-11 years. You get that. I mean, look at this. You go 5-11. Look at this. You go 2-14, 6-10, 9-7, 5-11, 5-11, 7-9, with a whiff at first overall pick Jameis Winston. So right here, how would you grade Jason Licht as a GM? How would you grade him 2-14, 6-10, 9-7, 5-11, 5-11, 7-9 with a first overall pick whiff? You would say this guy's one of the worst GMs in the league. Get his ass out of here. And then what happens? You win a Super Bowl, you go 13-4, and then you win the division, whatever it is, 4 years in a row. And you turned around Baker Mayfield and you did all this stuff. So what I'm saying is Mickey should be under some criticism, but this idea that like he should be fired, he is the root problem, I think is nuts. If you look at what's happened in his career, the Saints have been one of the most winning franchises since 2000. They've won more games than the Cowboys. They've been to more NFC title games. They've won more Super Bowls. They've won more division championships than a team like Dallas. All right, the Saints are right now in a bad spot. Again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is our best player, okay? But you cannot ignore what Mickey has done. You cannot ignore him taking one of the worst franchises in the NFL, arguably the worst, and turning them to one of the best. But James, it was Sean Payton. Okay, well, we're going to play a fun game. You got to give Mickey credit for bringing in Sean Payton. All right? But it was Drew Brees. Okay. You got to give Mickey credit for bringing in Drew Brees. Now you get into a real tricky situation. Let's look at the draft. You look at the draft since 2002. Well, we won't go that far back. But so if you look at the draft, all right, 2002, Dante Stallworth, Charles Grant, Charles Bentley, all right, Jonathan Sullivan, Will Smith, Devery Henderson. Let's keep going here. Reggie Bush, Roman Harper, Jari Evans. Jari Evans in the 4th round. Let's see, keep going. Tracy Porter, Malcolm Jenkins, Patrick Robinson, Charles Brown, Jimmy Graham in the 3rd. Cam Jordan, Mark Ingram, Teron Armstead, Brandon Cooks. Now you look at some of these players, obviously 2016 and 2017, 2017 might be the best draft class like in NFL history. You go Marshawn Lattimore, Ryan Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Alvin Kamara in the 3rd, Alex Anzalone in the 3rd, Trey Hendrickson in the 3rd. Insane. And that's after finding Michael Thomas in the 2nd. Insane. And then, keep on going, we get Eric McCoy in the 2nd, CJ Gardner-Johnson in the 4th, Caden Ellis in the 7th, Zach Bond in the 3rd, Pete Werner in the 2nd, Paulson Adebo in the 3rd, Chris Olave, Alante Taylor in the 2nd, and then the jury's still out on these draft classes, even though he got an A+ from Pro Football Focus in 2024. So with these draft classes, these are good drafts. No team hits on every draft, no doubt about it. Like, you don't hit on every single draft, every single pick, every single whatever. But you can certainly see, like, for the most part, these are pretty decent. Now, you may say, well, that's Sean Payton. Sean Payton is making those draft picks. Okay, well, if that's the case, then you have to also give Sean Payton the bad ones. If that's the case, you have to also give Sean Payton Marcus Davenport at 14th overall. You have to also give him Peyton Turner. I mean, like, if that's how you're going to do it, fine. But you can't say all of the good is Sean and all of the bad is Mickey. Can't do that. You can't say, well, he got lucky with Sean. And he also got lucky with Drew. But he didn't, but he was actually making a decision with Dennis Allen. You can't only label the bad with Mickey. So I'm with you, okay? I'm with you. This is not good enough for the Saints. No doubt about it. If you asked Mickey, he would say, yeah, this sucks. We won 5 games for the second time in my entire career. First time in 2 decades that we haven't won 7 games. There's something else I want to show you. Sean Payton and Drew Brees leave. Okay? Ask New England how it is to have the best coach in history leave and your best quarterback in history leave. New England has been a dumpster fire ever since. Even with Belichick, they were a dumpster fire when Brady left. That shit ain't easy. That is not an easy thing to do. Ask Howie Roseman how easy it is to keep things together. Ask Jason Licht how easy it is to keep things together. Tom Brady leaves, what happens to the Bucs? They can't win more than 10 games. Now the Bucs will this year, but it's not easy. Good teams go 9-8. Good teams go 8-9. Good teams go 9-7, 10-7. All right. The Eagles, one of the best franchises. They win the Super Bowl. 3 years later, they're 4-11. Shit happens. It ain't easy to keep it all together. I mean, look at this. You win the Super Bowl, and then you don't win 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't win over 10 games for 5 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 out of 7 seasons, the Eagles didn't win 10 games. 6 out of 7 seasons. The one they did, Super Bowl. This happens. You go through ups and downs. Players retire, players get hurt, rosters get old. Right now, the Saints roster is getting old defensively, and on the other side, they had a ton of injuries. No doubt. We can agree with that. But I just don't see, like, even Benjamin and Mina right there. They're like, yeah, this guy's made some bad decisions. And they rattled off his draft picks, and they're like, you could see Ben Solak right there. You could see him reading off those names and being like, well, actually, these are pretty good players. Well, damn. I mean, actually, Trey Henderson in the third, man, these are actually pretty sweet. When you go through, like, you just say it. It's just a meme right now. It's just a meme to just say Mickey Loomis is a fool. The Saints suck. Saints are a meme. Derek Carr sucks. It's just a meme right now. But when you're actually looking into and you're actually paying attention, you can say this has been unfortunate. You can say a lot of injuries. You can say, yes, our defense is getting old. Yes, we do need to trim a little bit here of the roster. We do need to get younger. We do need to, no doubt about it. Just like I'm sure they were saying that in Philadelphia when they went 6 out of 7 years without winning double-digit games. Just like I'm sure they're saying it in San Francisco right now. Just like I'm sure they were saying it in Tampa for the first, 7 years of Jason Licht's tenure when they were 5-7 and 5-7, 7-9 and whiffing on picks and first overall pick. They're getting rid of them and all that's happening. No doubt. Right now, it's up to Mickey to rebuild this thing. Right now, it's up to him to steer us in the right direction, get rid of these contracts, get rid of these older players. And that wasn't even factoring in some of the other players that he's discovered, a la Taysom Hill. Now, you could say Sean Payton, whatever. But again, can't only give him the good or the bad. All right? But to look at what Mickey's done over the last 23 seasons and think that it is impossible for him to put together a winner unless you believe that the game has just passed him by, unless you believe that he's checked out, unless you believe that he just ain't got it anymore, whatever. But I think when you look at everything, I just don't see how you can look at this season and say it's all Mickey's fault. I know people, want to see heads roll whenever the results aren't there. I mean, last year in Philadelphia, Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat. I really thought he was going to get fired. Jalen Hurts, there was a lot of questions about if he could play, if he was an actual good quarterback or if he was just a product of Shane Steichen. That all was happening last year. That ain't happening right now, is it? It's very easy to be short-sighted. It's very easy. I had people in the comments who were like, the Saints have been shit for 5 years. 5 years ago, the Saints were on their 4th consecutive NFC title, and they were 12-4. For us being at rock bottom, 9-8 last year, newsflash, guys, we're not the Jaguars. Newsflash, we're not the Giants. Hell, we're not even the Jets. Okay? We are not those teams. We are not the teams who are full on dumpster fires. We are not that. This year, injury situation, I explained it a million times. Yeah, this year we are. But this is not the New Orleans Saints. This is not the roster. This is not the product. This is not the plan. This is not it. You don't look at the Bengals last year when Jake Browning is the starting quarterback and be like, damn, the Bengals really took a step back. Yeah, no shit they did. Joe Burrow's hurt. Yes, of course they did. Jake Browning is the starting quarterback. So to look at the Saints team and be like, yeah, I don't know, this offense is kind of bad. Yeah, it is kind of bad. This team is a practice squad team playing against NFL teams. They are getting dog walked. This is not good. But this wasn't it. You know, Easton Stick was starting quarterback for the Chargers last year. Throw those games out. Easton Stick is not the starting quarterback for the Chargers. You can't judge the Chargers off Easton Stick. Okay? So, you know, I know this is going to get downvoted to holy hell. The comments I can already see. I mean, we're 30 minutes in. No one's watching the video at this point. But the comments are going to be eviscerating. But I got to do this. I could sit up here and make my thumbnail have fire in the background, and I could have rant alert emojis, and I could say fire Mickey Loomis, and I could go on Twitter and I could farm engagement by saying Mickey Loomis is a fool, fire Mickey Loomis, fire Gail Benson, sell the stadium, turn it into, you know, whatever, an MLS team or a hockey team. I could say all that stuff, but I just don't believe it. I don't believe Mickey should be fired. I do believe he should be on the hot seat. I do believe he has a lot of work to do. I do believe he has to rebuild this team. And if he messes up this head coaching hire, if he messes up the roster moving forward as far as like not getting rid of some of these contracts and holding on to certain players and, you know, not retooling in certain positions or whatever, but if he does all that stuff, yeah, okay, sure. No doubt. If he does all that, yeah, sure. Let's see what the deal is. But I honestly, if the injuries, let's just say the injuries don't happen and we win 9-10 games this year, which certainly could have been the case, I think him, like how he has navigated the Saints after Sean Payton and Drew Brees left, again, you look at New England, I think it's kind of impressive when, yeah, you drop to 7 wins, but then you're right back up to 9-8. That's with Pete Carmichael. You win 9 games with Pete Carmichael? God, you should get it. You should get a guaranteed playoff berth for that. If you go over 500 with Pete Carmichael on the sideline without his headset plugged in, you're running the offense, blowing bubbles, yeah, damn. So, like when you to look at that and it's like, man, rock bottom after Drew Brees and Sean Payton was not that bad until obviously a crazy amount of injuries hit and we're playing with undrafted players, free agents, and practice squad players. So, again, I know this is going to be a ton of disagreement. I get it. I understand people aren't happy. Mickey, someone is the scapegoat. Someone has to be the one who answers the questions whenever the results aren't there. In this situation, it's Mickey Loomis. And Gail Benson, poor Gail Benson. People are like, man, Gail Benson, she just doesn't know the X's and O's. No, she does not. And most owners do not. Yeah, the owner, I mean, you go look at a lot of the owners in the NFL and they're just like, old rich billionaires who they're not drawing up plays in their mansions. So, I'm not disputing that Gail doesn't know the game.
Like if you can't ever do mid-tier free agents, which they can't because of the way they manage the cap, then you can never plug the gaps that you don't know you have, right? When you draft, like, all right, this guy will step in for that guy after next year, whatever. But at some point, it's like, oh, shoot, we need a guard and we don't have a guard in the hopper. Well, when you do not have mid-tier free agent money, that guard becomes Lucas Patrick, and that's not where you want to be as a team, right? That's you can't cycle in NFL caliber bodies to immediately plug your short-term gaps the way that you need to.
Lucas Patrick is basically Joe Thomas compared to some of the people we've had out there this year. And yeah, the salary cap thing, like, if you want to really get into the weeds of it and say like this probably isn't the best way to do this, then that's totally fair for that criticism. Totally fair. But is that like the salary cap is weird, so fire him like that? Like the argument loses a lot of bite And before I think this is the last part.
When you decide to run your team like this, and it was defensible for a period of time, and then it became indefensible, and then it became absurd, and now it's just otherworldly what they've done.
It was defensible when we were winning. And like I showed, when you look at this, you look at 11 wins, 13 wins, 13 wins, 12 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins, 9 wins. That's pretty chill. I mean, that's pretty chill. And this 7-9, this stretch 7-9 is what Sean Payton and Drew Brees at the peak of their powers. So it's indefensible now because we're 5-11, and it's indefensible now when the players aren't playing to the level that they were. It was defensible when Michael Thomas was winning Offensive Player of the Year. It was defensible when we won 4 straight NFC South championships. It was defensible when all that was happening. We have the best defense in the NFL, but all of a sudden it becomes, well, now he's a fool. So I'd just be really careful with that.
And with their money at this point.
All right, so that's their segment on the Saints. One thing I'll say to finish this is a lot of people have said, well, you can't compare our situation to the Eagles, or you can't compare the 49ers situation to us. They're good, we're not. Yes, in this very tiny microcosm of this year. Yes, that is absolutely true. If you go 5 years, like you gotta extrapolate it out a little bit. You can't just be like, well, we're not good this year, so you can't compare us. If you look at the chunk, just like I showed the Buccaneers, just like I showed the Eagles, just like I showed everyone else, you extrapolate it out, we are as winning of a franchise, even the last 5 years. The last 5 years has not been good for the Saints. But if you go over the last 5 years, you've got 3 winning seasons, and a division championship, a 12-win season. Then you got 2 9-8 seasons, a 7-10 in there, which another injury that happened. And then this year. Like, even this right here is like, this 5-year stretch, easily the worst 5-year stretch of Loomis's career, besides when he first took over. Easily. Even if you take the worst 5-year stretch and you compare that to the Bucs, it's like, okay, all right, they got their Super Bowl with Brady. They lose Brady. Falls apart. Like, you got to flesh it out a little bit. You can't just say, just like the Niners. The Niners are horrible right now. The Niners are a 6-win team. They are underachieving by 4 or 5 games. They are a disaster. Okay? Do you look at that for that 1 year? Or do you look at it for what they've done over the last couple of years? John Lynch deserves a little bit of leeway because of all the success he has had. Now, does that mean he's infallible? Does that mean if they have a 6-win year next year that he shouldn't take criticism? No, of course not. But you cannot discredit off of 1 year. You cannot discredit off of 2 years. And the Saints, that's the funny thing. Like people will say the Saints have been bad for a long time. 9-8 ain't bad. In that situation with Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen as your head coach, you add 2 wins from the previous year, you go to 9-8, you're a Derek Carr injury away from making the playoffs and winning the division. Is it the best season? No, but it's not like, I don't think you can use that as fuel of the Saints have been bad for a long period of time. Just like, again, you look at the Bucs. Like 8-9, 9-8, 9-7. They got division championships in there, no doubt. Playoff berths, all that stuff. I get it. But I don't know. I think the 20 years of just complete dominance, 13 wins, 11 wins, 13 wins, 11 wins, 11, 13, 13, 12, 4 straight NFC South championships, a Super Bowl, multiple NFC title. I think all of that, I think the Brees stuff and the Payton stuff, it's almost like the same. Like, at some point, you will be a 9-win team. At some point, you will be an 8-win, 9-win, 7-win, 4-win, 5-win team, and it's up to your front office to get you out of that. No team is good forever. No team is good, for 40 years, and they never drop. Just like with the Eagles, they dropped to 4-11. It was up to Hoe Roseman to get them out of that 4-11. If the next year he's not 9-8, if the next year he's 6 wins or 4 wins again or 5 wins again, okay, time to turn up the hot seat. But he got him out of it. So the question is, can Mickey get the Saints out of this? What's he going to do now? I've said this a million times. It's his next move is the head coach. Who's it going to be? Does he nail that hire? Does he find the next guy? If not, if he chooses wrong and we win 4, 5, 6 games next year, okay. Now it's time to talk about it. But judging Mickey off of a year of injuries that no one could have forecasted, I think is a bit much. All right. I'm ready. Give me your worst in the comments. Go ahead. I can take it. Get on down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on this. And I will respond down there per usual. If any of the comments are worth a follow-up or worth another video or something like that, then we'll do that. But let's hear it. I will be the guy, I guess, who goes against the grain and doesn't just re all over the place and say we need to tear down the stadium. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, you are an angel. You are a saint. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in the next video.